Oh my web. The internet just exploded. Spider-Man fans are practically swinging from the virtual rooftops because Marvel and Sony just dropped what might be one of the most packed, detail-heavy, theory-confirming trailers we've ever seen for a Spider-Man film. Brand New Day isn't just a name anymore, it's a full-on statement. And with that sleek new Tom Holland suit returning fan-favorite characters and the quiet but spine-tingling presence of the Punisher and Hulk lurking in the background, we might be looking at the boldest and most ambitious Spider-Man story yet. So, buckle in, because we're about to tear this trailer apart, web strand by web strand, and uncover the jaw-dropping hints it's giving us about the plot, the multiverse, and the potential return of something fans have been begging for. The Sinister Six, a grounded Spider-Man arc, and maybe, just maybe, a prelude to Avengers Doomsday. It starts with a whisper, a clean slate. Sony suddenly wiping their entire social media presence was the equivalent of the Peter Tingle going off in the fandom. Something was coming, and it wasn't subtle. This trailer didn't just confirm suspicions, it obliterated any doubts. And right out the gate, the suit. Oh man, that suit. It's not just a costume. It's an evolution. And more importantly, it's a message. This isn't the MCU Spider-Man we met in Homecoming, nervously fumbling under Tony Stark's mentorship. This is a Peter Parker hardened by loss, solitude, and the consequences of magic that made the world forget him. What we're seeing here is a Spider-Man with no safety net, no friends in high places, just grit, guilt, and a closet full of broken tech and nostalgia. And that suit, yes, it looks like the one from the end of No Way Home, but take a closer look. Enhanced webbing, subtle texturing, modifications that scream DIY. That red-blue sheen is louder, bolder, unapologetically inspired by Tobey Maguire's and Andrew Garfield's legacies. The webbing is raised, just like Tobey's. The symbol? It's a love letter to the Spider-Man who came before, but filtered through Holland's personal, more grounded post-spell reality. This is Peter Parker reclaiming the Spider-Man identity on his terms, not Stark's, not Strange's. And that's just the beginning. There's a blink, and you'll miss it moment. Holland's Spider-Man standing on a tank. Not just any tank, it's marked with an insignia that's causing theories to go absolutely nuclear. It bears a resemblance to the Inner Demons, the criminal organization led by none other than Martin Lee, aka Mr. Negative. And if you know your comics, or even the Spider-Man PS4 game, you know that this is huge. Mr. Negative isn't just a villain with cool powers, he's a symbol of duality, of masks hiding monstrous truths. Sound familiar? That's Peter Parker's whole life. If this is who Spidey's going toe-to-toe with, it's not just gonna be a punch fest. It's going to be psychological warfare, a villain who reflects the cost of living double lives. That fight on the tank? It might be the beginning of a larger battle against the very idea of duality. And if Mr. Negative's gang is in control of these military-grade vehicles, what does that say about the scale of their reach? Is this more than just gang territory? Are we seeing a militarized Inner Demons force, which could explain why Spider-Man isn't fighting alone in this movie? Enter the reinforcements. Mark Ruffalo's Hulk. John Bernthal's Punisher. And yes, finally, after what feels like a decade of fan speculation, Michael Mando's Scorpion is officially back. Let's start with Scorpion. Remember that tantalizing post-credit scene from Homecoming? It teased something dark, something crawling just under the surface. Now it looks like it's finally emerging, and the details are delicious. This time, Scorpion's not just a thug with a vendetta. He might be donning a full, comic-accurate suit. And considering how tech-driven this Spider-Man universe is, don't be surprised if his mechanical tail is as dangerous as a Stark drone on steroids. But wait, how did he get out of prison? Theories are already spinning faster than a web sling through Manhattan. Did the blip mess with prison records? Did Kingpin pull some strings as part of his anti-vigilante crusade? Or, brace yourself, is Martin Lee already exerting influence from the shadows, orchestrating the release of Spider-Man's enemies to wear him down? Whatever the reason, this isn't just a villain of the week situation. It feels orchestrated. It feels like a chessboard, and Peter might be the king in check. Then there's the Punisher. John Bernthal returning is not just fan service, it's a tonal shift. The Punisher doesn't play nice. He doesn't quip. He doesn't web up bad guys and leave a note for the police. He shoots. He maims. He makes judgment calls that Spider-Man has always morally resisted. Putting them together on screen isn't just a nod to their comic origins, it's a powder keg. What happens when Peter's sense of responsibility meets Frank Castle's sense of retribution? Expect tension, expect philosophical clashes, and if they follow the comics closely, expect grudging respect forged in battle. And if that wasn't enough gamma radiation to digest, throw in the Hulk. But this isn't the comedic smart Hulk we've gotten used to in recent outings. If the rumors are true, we might be seeing a return to a more savage version of Banner's alter ego, one more in tune with his rage than his wit. The trailer might not show him directly, but the industry confirmations all point toward him being involved in some sort of conflict with Spidey and Punisher. And no, this isn't some team-up against a shared villain from the get-go situation. Word is, they're fighting each other first. That's right, Hulk versus Punisher versus Spider-Man. In the same movie. This isn't a crossover. It's a collision course. But why? Why are heroes fighting each other again? Haven't we moved past the Civil War type conflicts? Not quite. The reason is layered. Nobody knows who's on what side at first. Spider-Man, working solo in a city that's forgotten Peter Parker exists, might come off as a rogue vigilante. Punisher's name alone strikes fear, even in fellow crime fighters. And Hulk? If Banner's losing control again, or caught in the middle of something he doesn't fully understand, it's totally believable that they would clash before uniting. This is classic misunderstanding turned epic battle territory. And if Mr. Negative is really the puppeteer behind all this chaos manipulating fear and perception, then it all makes sense. It's a war of identities before it's even a war of fists. Zooming out, there's a bigger play here. The entire tone of Brand New Day is that it's not about Peter juggling superhero life with prom dates or field trips. It's about survival in a world that forgot him. After the spell in No Way Home, he literally had to get his GED. Think about that. His records didn't exist. He had no identity. He's starting from zero. And that's the beauty of it. This film isn't a continuation, it's a rebirth. The Spider-Man we're seeing is raw, unfiltered, built from scraps, and more importantly, emotionally alone. No Ned, no MJ, no Happy Hogan, no Stark Tech backup. That trailer showed us a leaner, shorter-haired Peter Parker living in a space that feels closer to Raimi's alleyways than MCU's high-tech lofts. This is Spider-Man as he was meant to be, scrappy, cornered, and more human than ever. And all of this is set in motion right before Avengers Doomsday. That's right, this is the final film before Marvel's next seismic crossover event. Which means Brand New Day has the impossible task of being personal and small scale, while also setting up cosmic consequences. The trailer hints at this with just the tone of its music. A slowed-down, piano version of Michael Giacchino's Spider-Man theme, introspective, haunted, even mournful. It tells us that this isn't just a blockbuster. It's a requiem for everything Peter's lost and a cautious prologue to what he might become. Speaking of Giacchino, the man behind the musical mood board, his fingerprints are all over this one. And if his involvement extends beyond just scoring, remember he directed Werewolf by Night, there's a chance he's helping shape the creative feel of this universe-spanning puzzle piece. It's no longer just about what's the next big cameo. It's about asking, what version of Spider-Man are we getting this time? And Sony's marketing strategy has been surprisingly sharp. Releasing this trailer just before the main outdoor shoots begin? It's a calculated strike. Why let blurry fan-captured photos of Tom Holland in partial costume leak first when you can control the narrative, set the tone, and weaponize anticipation? The suit, the angles, the cinematic vibe, all captured in stunning HD before anyone can slap a shaky watermark over it. What we're seeing is the first Spider-Man movie made entirely in the post-pandemic era with no filming restrictions. And you feel it. Gone are the heavily CGI sets and close-quarter backlot scenes. This trailer shows wide angles, real locations, natural lighting. It feels tactile, gritty, alive. And yet, even in the most grounded frame, Marvel's still using CGI wizardry for even the smallest movements. You thought those islands animations were only for battles? Think again. Even casual walking scenes now get digital touch-ups. It's obsessive, but it shows a commitment to visual consistency that fans are noticing and appreciating. And it's not just the visuals. There's a sense of closure. This movie, in many ways, feels like the answer to all those lingering threads from Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home. Characters like Scorpion, the tease of a darker Spider-Man world, the pain of being forgotten. It's like Marvel and Sony finally opened the box of unfinished business and said, okay, let's handle all of it, but let's do it right. And don't even get me started on the post-credit scene potential. If Doomsday is truly on the horizon, then we are almost guaranteed a teaser that connects this small, intimate Spider-Man story to something far more terrifying and wide-reaching. And rumors are swirling that the Russo brothers, yes, the minds behind Infinity War and Endgame, are the ones directing those scenes. That means whatever we get at the end of Brand New Day might not just be a teaser. It could be the first shot fired in the next great Marvel war. And when we talk about wars, we have to talk about alliances. Or more accurately in this case, the lack of them. Because the real theme brewing under the surface of Brand New Day isn't just conflict, it's isolation. This is Peter Parker on his own. Stripped of mentors, stripped of memory, stripped of support systems. And when you're that alone, every new face is a potential enemy until proven otherwise. That's what makes the dynamic with Punisher and Hulk so compelling. They aren't there as allies. They're threats. They're reflections of what Spider-Man could become under different moral codes. And when you consider Punisher's brutal efficiency and Hulk's overwhelming force, it makes Peter's sense of self, his refusal to cross certain lines, all the more admirable and dangerous. Because what happens when you're trying to do good in a world where no one remembers you and no one's there to vouch for your character? That's what Brand New Day seems to be asking. It's the ultimate test of Spider-Man's core mantra. With great power comes great responsibility. When no one's watching, when no one knows your name, do you still stand up? Do you still swing into the fire? And now let's talk about the logistics behind some of the biggest returns and cameos. Take Michael Mando's Scorpion, for example. His story has been cooking in the background for years. That post-credit scene in Homecoming where he confronts Vulture in prison was meant to be the first breadcrumb of something bigger. But then COVID happened. Creative plans changed. The multiverse was introduced. And suddenly Spider-Man's grounded world got swept into global and cosmic crises. Brand New Day feels like the franchise finally course-correcting. It's circling back to the threats that were seeded early. This is Marvel and Sony saying, let's finish what we started. And it makes narrative sense. If Peter's trying to rebuild his life, the past is going to come knocking. Villains don't forget just because the world forgot Peter Parker. Scorpion has beef. Legitimate. Dangerous. Dangerous. Simmering rage. And if he's now aligned with Mr. Negative, or even upgraded by him, then this isn't just a revenge arc, it's an elevation. Scorpion might not be leading the Sinister Six, but he's staking his claim as one of its most lethal members. And remember, This is not the Scorpion of alternate universes like friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. This is our universe, our continuity. This version of Matt Gargan matters. But there's a bigger question here. Who's funding these villains? Who's orchestrating their freedom, their upgrades, their coordination? That's where we start to feel the eerie shadow of Kingpin. Now here's where it gets tangled in the legal web. As revealed by Vincent D'Onofrio, Sony controls the rights to use Kingpin in films. Marvel controls him in television. That's why we've seen him flourish in Daredevil, born again, but not pop up in No Way Home or Far From Home. It's all about rights. But make no mistake, his fingerprints can still be felt. Because even if Kingpin himself doesn't appear in Brand New Day, his political movement, his crackdown on vigilantes, is likely part of the backdrop. We're seeing echoes of this crackdown in everything from Daredevil to Echo, and now spilling over into Spider-Man's corner of the universe. It's entirely plausible that Kingpin's influence has sparked a rise in anti-hero sentiment across New York. That means more arrests, more fear, more underground resistance. And who thrives in that kind of chaos? Characters like Punisher, characters like Mr. Negative, characters like Scorpion. In a city where masks are hunted, Spider-Man becomes the ultimate outlaw. And that outlaw status brings us back to why this Spider-Man is so different. There's a rawness to his current reality. No connections, no Avengers support, no tech wizardry from Stark. Just Peter, just his brains, his skills, and his will. When you rewatch the trailer, you start to notice that the tone is intentionally grittier. The cinematography has a colder, more tactile quality. It's less vibrant MCU and more urban realism. There are shades of Raimi's aesthetic and the grounded desperation of the Amazing Spider-Man. And that's intentional. This is the MCU's way of acknowledging the legacy of those past versions while letting Holland's Parker carve out his own definitive arc. And doing that through the lens of Brand New Day is brilliant. Because in the comics, Brand New Day marked a controversial reset. It wiped Peter's marriage to MJ, rewrote parts of his continuity, and was met with mixed reactions. But in the MCU, it's an opportunity. That reset from No Way Home gave Marvel the chance to clean the slate while still honoring what came before. And now, with the weight of anonymity on his back, Peter Parker becomes a character we've never truly seen in live action before. One who must fight not just villains, but the void of recognition. That's a powerful place to build from. Speaking of building, we can't ignore the evolving tech. Those brief glimpses of the web shooters in the trailer, they're not just props. They're storytelling devices. Subtle changes suggest Peter's been tweaking them, enhancing range, possibly even adapting to fight new types of enemies. Remember, Spider-Man isn't just a superhero, he's a scientist. Alone in a studio apartment or some dusty warehouse, he's reverse engineering everything from scraps and memories. That's where the magic lies. These aren't Wakandan upgrades. They're garage-made marvels. And let's not forget CGI still plays a massive role. Even in scenes where Tom Holland is physically on set in a suit, Marvel touches up nearly everything. The reflections in the eyes, the folds in the fabric, even the way shadows bend across his chest, all digitally perfected. Some call it overkill. But in the context of Brand New Day, it reflects the duality of the story. A Peter Parker trying to stay grounded while the world around him gets more artificial, more chaotic, more out of control. Now let's pivot back to the wild card, Mr. Negative. If he is indeed the main villain, then we're diving deep into one of the most psychologically complex arcs in Spider-Man's rogue gallery. Martin Lee isn't a megalomaniac or a cosmic threat. He's a man torn in half, philanthropist by day, destructive force by night. He leads the inner demons, whose presence in the trailer is not just a visual callback. It's a threat layered in metaphor. Demons aren't just enemies. They're traumas. They're the ghosts Peter thought he buried. And if Lee's powers involve corrupting light into darkness, twisting goodness into violence, then what better foe to confront a Peter Parker trying to reforge his moral compass? The power of Mr. Negative isn't just his dark force-based energy manipulation. It's his ability to reveal what people repress. And for Peter, that could mean confronting the guilt of Aunt May's death, the rage of losing MJ and Ned, the fatigue of always choosing others over himself. It's fertile ground for a story that finally forces Spider-Man to face his own shadow. And if the theory holds that Mr. Negative is also responsible for liberating and upgrading villains like Scorpion, then we might be looking at the early seeds of a Sinister Six, not thrown together in one film, but carefully, slowly formed over time. A true long game. This brings us to Punisher's involvement. Why would Marvel reintroduce Frank Castle in a Spider-Man movie instead of his own series first? The answer lies in legacy. Punisher first appeared in a Spider-Man comic. His code and Peter's code were always destined to clash. And now with Bernthal back in the Skull Vest, the time is right to finally explore that dynamic in depth. There's no multiverse handwave here. This is the 616 Punisher. This is the real deal. And while Marvel is deliberately loosening the connections between the shows and the films, the echoes still linger. We're being told not to expect too many references to Daredevil, born again in this movie. But Frank Castle's presence alone carries that narrative DNA, his methods, his anger, his war on crime. And it begs the question, will Peter influence Punisher? Or will Punisher tempt Peter to abandon his own code? Let's go even further. If this film is indeed the final puzzle piece before Avengers Doomsday, then expect Brand New Day to play a role similar to Ant-Man and the Wasp did before Endgame. Small, personal, but critical. The trailer gives us no hint about a cosmic threat. No portals. No Kang. No Fantastic Four. But if the Russos are filming the post-credit scene, then that tag could be massive. Robert Downey Jr.'s rumored return as a variant Dr. Doom is something you don't throw into just any post-credit scene. It has to mean something. And connecting Doom to the grounded world of Spider-Man might be the perfect way to show how wide the net of Doomsday reaches. That post-credit scene, whatever it ends up being, will set the tone for Marvel's next phase. But Brand New Day isn't just a stepping stone. It's a rediscovery, a reintroduction, a reminder that Peter Parker doesn't need magic portals, alien tech, or billion-dollar resources to carry a film. He needs stakes. He needs heart. And most importantly, he needs us to remember why we fell in love with this character in the first place. Tom Holland's performance, from what little we've seen, looks tighter, more internalized. There's a weight in his posture, a deliberate sadness in his eyes. This is a Peter Parker who's tired, but he's not giving up. The haircut alone tells a story, a return to basics, a visual reset. And as superficial as that may sound, it's meaningful. It tells us he's shedding the old skin. He's not trying to be the next Iron Man. He's not clinging to the past. He's surviving. And in that survival, he's finding his own path. So, where do we go from here? Well, there's still a lot we haven't seen. Rumors of other villains, whispers of returning characters. And as shooting continues, leaks are inevitable. But the foundation is solid. Sony and Marvel have finally found the perfect bridge between nostalgia and novelty. Between multiverse mayhem and street-level realism. The tone of this movie is what fans have been craving. It's the Spider-Man who has nothing, and therefore everything to fight for. This isn't about saving the universe. It's about saving himself. It's about finding identity in anonymity. Purpose in pain, And when you pair that story with a carefully curated supporting cast, Punisher, Scorpion, maybe even a touch of Hulkian chaos, you get a film that doesn't just swing between buildings. It dives into the soul. So now we wait. We dissect every new frame. We speculate on the villains hiding in shadows, on the allies who haven't shown their faces. But one thing is clear. Spider-Man Brand New Day might be the most important Spider-Man movie since No Way Home. Not because of cameos. Not because of crossovers. But because it's finally giving us the Peter Parker we've been waiting to see. Scarred, struggling, but still standing. And when the dust settles, when the final credits roll, and when that post-credit scene drops, don't be surprised if you find yourself right back at the beginning. Remembering why Spider-Man, more than any other hero, matters most when the world forgets him. Because in the end, no matter how dark the day, Spider-Man always shows up.